Hi friends, David here from Learn Christmas Lighting. It's early 2022 actually when I'm recording this. It's not quite 2022, but regardless, when it comes to choosing a Christmas light controller, it can get really confusing, okay? And in today's video, I want to look at the three main brands of controllers that you can get and talk about how to choose which one's right for you and give you my picks of which ones are my favorites and which ones, to be honest, kind of frustrate me. Can definitely be some ambiguity here, and I'm the first to say that there's no one right answer for everyone. So with that said, let's go ahead and look at the contenders. So if you're doing a decent sized show, your main contenders are going to be Falcon controllers at pixelcontroller.com, Kulp controllers at kulplights.com, and controllers from Holiday Coro, where they have the AlphaPix Evolution and the HinksPix CPUs. Okay. And, I'm leaving out here. I had previously talked in a video, we'll feature that here, about the Wally's Lights Pi Zero based controller with a Pi Hat thing, which is a pretty cool little controller, but it's fairly limited. And if I had a show of a decent size, which I mean I do, but if I were in your shoes and I was looking at controlling, over 1,000 pixels, at that point you would start to be getting a bunch of those controllers, and I don't like setting up my shows that way because it leaves a lot more points per potential failure, and that's been shown to happen. So we've got these three brands of controllers, and at first glance they look pretty similar. Okay, what do they all have in common? They all have a combination, depending on the model, of local short range pixel ports and long range ports that use receivers or smart receivers in order to control them. Now, unfortunately, since really last year, 2021, we've seen kind of a divergence in the smart receivers, where with the original version 1 smart receivers, a Falcon brand smart receiver was pretty much compatible with any controller out there, and you could use it with pretty much any controller in the smart receiver mode. Now, as far as my testing has shown and the firmware at the time of this recording on the various controllers, there is a specific 2.0 smart receiver for Falcons. There is a specific one for Kulp. It is right here on their website somewhere. It's right at the top. And it is a different one, though very similar. It is different than the Falcon one. Okay. And then HinksPix and AlphaPix, they've got some different receivers too. And the one thing that they have that nobody else has, that I do have to point out here, is they have a smart receiver that can do 16 ports. So it's like a whole F16 controller, basically 16 outputs on one Ethernet cable. Now, the way that they accomplish it is kind of a pain in the butt to configure, to be honest, and I'm not a huge fan, but we'll get into that. Okay, so when we look at all three of these, like I said, they've got some similarities. They have different sizes of outputs. They all have integrated show players. And so moving forward, I used to recommend folks use Xschedule if they're first starting out, and then maybe move to FPP or another show player later. Now these systems have become easy enough to use that I recommend skipping Xschedule, just go straight to FPP or your built-in Falcon or HinksPix show player. Okay, it's just, there's no need to hold up a computer setting up a show, and honestly, there's more that can go wrong than right. So anyways, enough of that. So when I look at these controllers, who do I knock out of the running first? Quick, okay? I first knock out the Holiday Coro controllers, the HinksPix and the AlphaPix Flex. And this isn't because I hate Holiday Coro. I really don't mind them that much. Obviously, across the industry, there's differing opinions. But I've bought the HinksPix and I've coached numerous students through configuring, setting these things up, and working with them. And they're just more frustrating to get started with. They're more difficult to configure. They've got more limitations and restrictions, and the documentation out there on them is poor and scarce and hard to follow. Okay, so I really don't recommend those controllers. So that brings us to the Kulp and the Falcon at pixelcontroller.com. Okay, both of these, as I look across the industry, look at my own experience, look at the experience of students and other folks that I talk to, both are great controllers. Falcon's got the upper hand on quality control a little bit. They've been doing it longer, and they've got better quality control. Kulp, however, though we do run into the occasional quality control issue with them, anybody I've talked to that's had a quality control issue is able to get it fixed by Kulp. It's not a big deal. And so I wouldn't kick out Kulp, throw them under the bus just for that, because they do take care of their stuff. And, they've been around less time, but I think they'll get that figured out as time moves on. Okay, so now we're talking features. Okay, let's look at the Falcons first. I've liked Falcons for the longest time. They've been around a long time. They're a great controller. Okay, so their new controllers, their V4, which is what's out as of 2021, they have the F48 V4 and the F16 V4. Let's open those both up. Okay, and they've got some really great features to them that might make them right for your show. Okay, so what they've got going on here is, this is the F48, is like the previous F48. It has 48 ports available via receiver boards. Okay, it has a 2-port network switch wired in, and it also has wireless built into the board itself, which I really like, all those features built right in. Is the wireless the strongest thing ever? No, it's not, but it's fine. And if it's not fine, just plug it in. Okay. It has DMX output via RJ45, which is very easy to use if you're doing moving heads in your show or any other DMX elements. So I really appreciate that. It has a toggle switch between 5 volt and 7 to 13 volt for its power that it's receiving, which is awesome. And it has a built-in one smart receiver. It's the last 4 ports. It's smart receiver A. So you can do some ports locally, which I really do like as well. Okay. Also available with this one, which I like, which really makes it like a full setup, is, let's see if we can get it all on one page. I don't think so. V4 series. Yeah, I can. If I go to products, V4 series controllers and accessories. One thing I like is that these V4 controllers really can be a everything controller. Okay, because you've got these little audio boards, and it clicks in on the board right there. You push it in. Now you have an audio output straight from the F16. Okay, and so now all you've got to do is get an FM transmitter, and you're ready to go. Okay, the F16 or F48 are great boards. Similarly, the F16 is kind of the opposite of the F48. Okay, because it has 16 local ports. Most of its ports are local. But then it still has 2 smart receiver ports, so you can still do some long-range receivers. And again, that DMX jack, the wireless, the 2 Ethernet jacks to chain through to other controllers. And you can expand it. There are expansion kits available to do more local or long-distance ports. Okay, and so that's really killer. There's a lot of features built in here. Again, you can do the audio off of it. Really great. Okay. I like Falcons a lot. I've always liked Falcons. They've been very good to me. They've been great controllers. Okay. My only hesitation with recommending Falcons to you for some people is that the show player functionality as the main player that plays the audio can be a little clunky. I think these Falcons work great as a player. The main player has some weird issues where you can't bring in MP3 files. If you do, you got to take them through a process, which you can do inside the controller to convert them over to WAV files. And the whole process feels a little clunky to me, to be 100% honest. I've tried it, I've tested it. It works the way it's described in the manual, but it feels clunky. And it is a little clunky. Okay. Same with the overall player interface inside the controller. It's not as smooth as the Kulp controllers, but they're a really well built board. I like the Ethernet switch and the wireless, which you can use for running a FPP based show with player and remotes. I like that it has an LCD screen. Falcons are great controllers. Okay, so let's go over to the Kulps. Kulp has a variety of controllers. And While I like the K4 and the 40 and the 8, I believe, yeah, the K8s, um, the some of these controllers, the Kulp ones, have a couple things missing that really frustrate me. The K16 and the 32 are by far my favorites. Okay, why is that? So with Kulp, you have two different types of controllers. Some of them have a Beagle Bone Black, or I think the green as well, and some of them use the Pocket Beagle in order to run the show. Okay, now they run FPP directly, which is awesome, and the new interface, the new layout from 2021 is so easy to use. It rocks. Okay, it's really great. But the Pocket Beagle ones in particular, I, again, would not recommend them as your player. Why is that? Well, if we look at like a K8 Pocket Beagle, there's a couple things missing from it that are really important for a player unit. Okay, a remote is fine for it, but for a player, not good. Okay, and those things are, there's no wireless built in. There's no wired network interface. The only way you can connect these things is via the USB. So you got to come down here. You've got to add on potentially a wireless Wi-Fi adapter. If you want audio, you have to attach a Sound Blaster 3 audio adapter. And if you need them both at the same time, which you kind of do if your show's more than a single controller, then you need a USB hub as well. And that USB hub, you need an adapter or one that works on the smaller USB port. I believe it's a micro USB. Yeah, on those Pocket Beagles. Okay, and that's where it kind of frustrates me. That's where I go, there's so many different things you've got to add on to these in order to get them going that it kind of frustrates me. And so it makes it harder for newbies. Also, if you're doing any DMX lights such as moving heads, the Kulps vary in their DMX output. Like this one, there's these 3 tiny pins that stick up that you have to solder a DMX cable to. I don't like that. Okay, some of the Kulps do have the ability to get the DMX through a terminal block connector. Okay, or through you can use one of your receiver ports as the DMX ports on some of these. I don't love eating up a receiver port with that, but I like using a Ethernet jack, a RJ45, which is actually an 8P8C, for DMX, because you can then just run out an Ethernet cable, stick a standard, off-the-shelf $5 Amazon DMX adapter on the end, and it just works. Okay, no terminal blocks, no soldering. I like that. It's easy. Okay, so let's look at the Kulp controllers that I really like, especially for your main controller, the 16 and the 32. I'm going to pull up the 32 just because they're really the same. The 32 is just bigger. Okay, so what you get out of these is a lot better. So you get a Kulp controller. It's got the Beagle Bone, the regular one, so it has a network jack on it. It also has an audio jack built into it to play your sequences back. Then for the 16, it has 16 ports on it local. And for the 32, it is a second set. It has 32 local ports on it in 4 power banks, so you can hook up multiple power supplies. Then in the middle, there are 4 long-range ports for up to 16 sets of smart receivers, those being the Beagle Bone, the BBB smart receivers available from Kulp Lights, not the other brand's smart receivers. Different brands' receivers will work, but not in smart mode. Okay. And so I really like that about the Beagle Bone, the fact that you're able to have your audio built in on board. You have a wired network interface. You can plug it into something else. You could potentially plug it into a wireless network as well, with a router or something. I really like that about these guys. And so that would be my pick. Now, can you get with the Beagle Bone? I don't think you can get both wireless and wired out of the same controller like you can on the Falcon. And I really like that. Okay. I'm just going to double check that super duper quick to make sure that I'm wrong. Not wrong. to make sure that I'm wrong. So it looks like they do have USB on them. Let's just double check. So it's the BeagleBone back. Yeah, there's a full size USB. So never mind. You can do wireless and wired on the K16 and 32. You don't need an additional sound blaster and a USB hub and all this stuff you're trying to cram in and add on and have potential issues with one or more pieces not working. Everything's built in. You can technically add on an FM transmitter. Is it legal in the US? Not necessarily. It's probably going to be more powerful than what the FCC allows, depending on your antenna design. So I don't love that. But the fact is, there's an audio out built in. There's wired network. You can go wireless with the USB port on these things. I really like them. And the fact that they have FPP built in, they have a clock built in, that definitely sets it apart for me. I think, and I'm going out on a limb here, that if you're looking for a master controller in 2022 to be your player, to output to your FM transmitter and send sequence info to other controllers and all that, I would go with a Kulp. For me, the Falcons are great. I think their player's not quite as easy to use. So for a player, I really like the Kulp. For other stuff, if it's a remote, yeah, the Falcons are awesome. They're great. And you can even not even use the player functionality if you're wired to your main show player. You can just have the main show player send out pixel data to your Falcon as well. I do that in my home display. It's a V3 Falcon, which doesn't have the FPP compatible show player. So it's all good. Okay. So I hope that helps you answer your question today on Falcon versus Kulp. Okay, right now I really lean a little bit more towards Kulp, but they're both great options. And you got to look at, okay, how are you laying out? Where do you have things in your display? And which controller, which kind of like port layout and the way that they have certain numbers of outputs, local versus long range, which of those fits your display better? Because it might not be the same as me. And if you are looking for controllers, so a lot of people build them yourself. Last week we built one here on the channel. You can catch that video here. But if you are looking to buy controllers, two great places are cclcontrollers.com and beachincontrollers.com. So these are places, can you tell it's in the Christmas season? Everything's out of stock, but these are places that build controllers. CCL also, I don't think Beachin has them, but CCL has these great kits as well. I'm not affiliated in any way. They're not paying me or anything. But they have these great kits where you get the controller box drilled out with the holes and you get every piece you need. And that just rocks, it's cool. Or you can just get them built. But I can tell you, even when they have the pre-built ones, the ones that are built for you out of stock, they typically do have the kits. Okay. They have them for Kulp and Falcon. So both of these sites, I believe. So anywho, a lot of information there. Hope I didn't confuse you today, but I just want to clarify, like, some of my things that I really like about some of these controllers, some of the things that kind of frustrate me, and how you can find the best controller for your needs, for your display. If you've enjoyed this, hang on, subscribe here, check out our main website, and check out Learn Christmas Lighting Academy if you're looking to create your first show this year. Links below, everywhere, everything we mentioned, we'll have it all right there. Thanks so much, and have a great day. See ya.